Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going on a bit of a journey
Yep.
into the world of cybercrime in India.
Oh, yeah.
And, we're going to be looking at how criminals are blending traditional trust-based scams
Right.
with like cutting-edge tech.
Yeah.
And this deep dive is based on a recent conversation between a cybercrime expert and a journalist on a popular Indian podcast.
Okay.
And we're going to kind of go through the source material and give our thoughts and try to,
Yeah, give the listeners
some takeaways that they can use.
some good stuff.
Yeah. So what I thought was so fascinating about these cases, is how they highlight the human element of cybercrime.
Yeah.
It's not always about, advanced hacking.
Right.
It's about understanding, human psychology
Yeah. Yeah.
and exploiting vulnerabilities in our social systems.
It's like security. It's often more about people than it is about technology.
Absolutely. Like, for example, the first story that we're going to talk about today is a prime example of this.
Yeah.
So this story involves this guy whose car was found with drugs.
Oh, wow.
And it led to this big investigation.
Uh-huh.
And it exposed this whole network of scams.
Oh, wow. This is a classic trust trap, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it all starts with this guy driving down a highway, and he sees this young woman walking alone.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's being a good Samaritan.
Yeah.
Offers her a ride.
You can already see how he's stepping into this carefully constructed
Yeah.
scenario.
It's so crazy how it all starts.
Yeah.
So they get to chatting. They find some common ground. They even exchange Facebook info.
Oh, no.
She mentioned she needs to do some technical work and suggests going to his place since they're both headed that way.
Mm-hmm.
So they get to his house.
Uh-huh.
And things escalate very quickly.
Oh, no.
So these two guys claiming to be pest control
Pest control.
show up.
What?
And they hold them at gunpoint, rob them blind,
Oh, my gosh.
take off with their car and all their belongings.
Wow.
But here's the twist.
Okay.
The man is afraid to tell the real story to the police
Why?
because it involves some compromising details about his evening.
Oh, no. So the criminals are banking on that social pressure
Totally.
to ensure that he stays silent.
Exactly. It's all like part of the plan.
Yeah.
So anyway, the police investigated. They traced the woman,
Right.
but it leads them to this girl whose identity had been stolen.
Oh, wow.
Someone in her hostel used her information to create this fake persona
Jeez.
for the scam.
Uh-huh.
So eventually, through toll records and CCTV footage and even restaurant bills,
Wow.
the police tracked down the gang.
Uh-huh.
But, the expert pointed out that the root of the crime
Right.
was the victim's trust
Yeah.
in that seemingly innocent woman.
Yeah, it all comes back to that initial trust.
Right.
That first point of vulnerability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there.
Oh.
Remember the pest control guys?
Yeah.
They were able to get into the man's high security society
Right.
using an app-based entry system,
Oh, no.
and the woman had given them access
Through her phone.
through her phone. Yeah.
Wow. So they're exploiting technology designed for security.
It's terrifying.
That's scary.
And this brings us to like a crucial point that the expert emphasized.
Oh, okay.
He said that many scams, even the ones that we think of as like hacking,
Mm-hmm.
they often rely more on basic human psychology
Right.
than they do on technical prowess.
It's about understanding how people think and react and then using that knowledge against them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a good example of this is like the common fear of the police.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people have, especially in India,
Right.
like that fear is often used to manipulate victims into silent.
Totally. I remember my company's MD,
Okay.
super successful guy.
Yeah.
He was too afraid to file a police report for a stolen phone.
Really?
Like, he asked me to do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's a reminder of how ingrained that fear is in our culture, right? And
Yeah.
and it makes us vulnerable to these tactics.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
like think back to that first story.
Mm-hmm.
The victim's fear of societal judgment
Right.
played right into the criminal's hands.
Totally.
Okay, so speaking manipulation,
Yeah.
let's talk about the digital illusions and the probability playbook
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
that the expert discussed.
Yeah.
So this is about a quote-unquote scientist
Okay.
who claims to have cracked the stock market
Oh, wow.
and that he can predict share price changes.
This one's clever because it preys on our desire for quick wealth, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And he contacts victims through LinkedIn,
Uh-huh.
poses as a financial genius,
Okay.
offers to share insider information about stocks.
Right.
Um, and, the victim is initially skeptical,
Of course.
but they check the predictions.
Yeah.
And they're shocked to find that they were accurate.
Right. So the scientist creates this illusion of expertise
Yeah.
to kind of set the stage for the scam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the secret is so deceptively simple.
Oh, really?
It's all based on probability.
What?
So what he likely does is he targets a large number of people, let's say like 40.
Okay.
He divides them into two groups.
Uh-huh.
Tells one group a stock will rise, the other that it'll fall.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's guaranteed to be right for half of them.
It's a numbers game.
Exactly.
It's designed to weed out the skeptics and find the most gullible targets.
Yeah. So the next day, he focuses on the group that his prediction was correct for.
Right.
Divides them again, makes new predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Each time, he narrows down his pool of victims
Mm-hmm.
until he's left with a handful who believe he's a stock market wizard.
Wow.
And then he tells them that he's ready to make serious money together.
Oh.
And gives them an account to deposit funds,
Mm-hmm.
but those funds just disappear.
Oh my gosh, it's a classic bait and switch, right?
Yeah.
Using this guise of sophistication to mask a very simple but effective strategy.
Yeah, this is like a powerful lesson, I think, for anyone listening.
Yeah.
Be wary of anyone claiming to have, cracked the code,
Yeah.
especially in finance.
Especially in finance, yeah.
If it sounds too good to be true,
Yeah,
it probably is.
it probably is.
And this brings us to another question that I think a lot of listeners have,
Okay.
which is, how are these accounts that are used for scams
Right.
not easily tracked?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And the answer, unfortunately, involves a human cost.
Yeah, they're exploiting vulnerable individuals,
Right.
offering them small amounts of money to use their accounts as pass-throughs.
Mm-hmm.
So they're turning these people into unwitting accomplices.
Yeah.
And we are seeing an increase in KYC.
Right.
No, your customer regulations designed to prevent this.
Yeah.
But criminals are adapting, right? They're
Right.
targeting people that are desperate for cash,
Yeah.
offering them quick money
Mhm.
in exchange for access to their accounts.
Yeah.
It's a tragic cycle.
It is. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
And talk about a common misconception, I think, about online security,
Okay.
which is passwords.
Passwords, yeah.
So the expert made this really surprising statement.
Okay.
He said that complex passwords aren't that important.
Really?
I know it seems counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but he said that while a strong password is helpful,
Right.
the key to online security lies in multi-factor authentication.
Multi-factor authentication.
So instead of trying to remember a string of random characters,
Right.
we should prioritize setting up multi-factor authentication.
Yes. Think of it as a double lock on your digital front door.
Right.
Right. It could be getting a code
Yeah.
via text. It could be using an authentication app.
Right.
Even biometric verification, like a fingerprint scan.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So even if someone steals your password,
Yeah.
they can't get into your account without that second layer
Right.
of security.
Right.
And here's a glimpse into the future. We're actually moving towards a passwordless world.
Really?
Yeah, researchers are exploring systems that authenticate users based on their unique behavioral patterns. So like the way you type, the way you hold your phone, how you navigate online.
So your digital actions create like a unique fingerprint
Exactly.
that can be used for verification.
Yeah, it's incredible, right?
That's so cool.
It is. It could completely revolutionize online security,
Yeah.
make it more convenient and more secure.
Wow.
But as we, sort of explore these advances, I think it's crucial to also address the dangers of oversharing on social media,
Totally.
especially when it comes to children.
Yeah.
Right. So the expert shared how you know information about children's routines
Mm-hmm.
and details about them can be used to build profiles for targeted scams.
Like that app scam story.
Yes, exactly.
Their criminals use social media info to impersonate a child
Yeah.
and manipulate their parents.
It's chilling.
It is. And thinking back to that Diwali party example,
Yeah.
even a seemingly harmless photo can reveal valuable information to criminals.
It's true. Yeah. Information about your kids' school uniforms, their activities, their daily schedule. All of this can be used to build a very convincing
And dangerous.
and dangerous facade.
So protecting our children's online safety means being extremely cautious about what we share publicly.
Absolutely.
And that actually leads us to another question that I think a lot of people have,
Yeah.
which is, can we remove leaked data from the dark web?
It's a tough question.
Yeah, I imagine that's a challenging task.
Yeah, the expert was very clear on this.
What?
He said it's nearly impossible.
Oh,
The dark web is designed for anonymity,
yeah.
which makes it incredibly difficult to track down the source of
Yeah.
leaked data once data is out there.
Yeah.
It's essentially out there for
So
good.
it's like trying to erase a message in a bottle
Yeah,
once it's been tossed into the ocean.
exactly.
And he connected this to the broader trend of Web 3.0
Right.
and decentralized systems.
Yeah, data control is becoming more fragmented, more
Yeah.
complex.
So as we move into this new landscape, minimizing our digital footprint and being mindful of the information that we share online
Right.
becomes even more important.
Absolutely.
You also had a question about Bitcoin
Yes.
and its security,
Right.
particularly the potential for manipulation
Yeah.
through something called a 51% attack.
Yeah, a 51% attack is where a single entity gains control of the majority of the network's computing power.
That sounds scary.
It is a theoretical vulnerability.
Right.
And while it is a concern, there's a more immediate threat on the horizon,
Okay.
and that is quantum computing.
Oh, yeah. Now, this is a topic I find fascinating
It's a big one.
and a bit daunting, to be honest.
Yeah.
So what did the expert have to say about that?
Well, quantum computers have the potential to disrupt many aspects of our digital world, including cryptocurrencies.
So,
They can perform calculations at unimaginable speeds,
right.
which poses a real challenge to the cryptographic algorithms
Mhm.
that secure Bitcoin.
So a powerful enough quantum computer could crack the code that protects Bitcoin transactions.
Potentially, yes.
Wow.
It would make Bitcoin vulnerable to theft and manipulation.
This is a topic that deserves its own deep dive in the future, I think.
I think so, too. It's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely, as quantum computing technology evolves.
For sure.
So based on everything that we've learned so far,
Yeah.
what can people do to stay safe?
Well, I think vigilance and critical thinking are paramount,
Okay.
especially in a country like India where trust is often weaponized,
Right.
as we've seen in these stories.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to question, verify, seek clarification if something seems off online.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you encounter unethical or unhelpful behavior from law enforcement,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to contact higher-ranking officers.
Okay.
They're often more approachable and understanding.
That's good to know.
Yeah, the key is to be empowered and informed.
So as technology continues to advance at this unprecedented pace,
Right.
the question becomes, will our trust in the digital world erode further? Or will new forms of security and transparency emerge?
It's a thought-provoking question to consider.
It is.
Yeah, as we navigate this increasingly complex world.
For sure.
So, before the break, we were talking about how criminals are exploiting trust and technology in India.
Right.
Let's explore another kind of alarming trend, which is voice cloning.
Yeah, that's right. The expert mentioned how easy it's become to clone someone's voice
Yeah,
using AI.
right.
And he shared some pretty chilling examples of scams that use this technology.
It's incredibly sophisticated, like with just a short audio sample.
Really?
Criminals can create these realistic impersonations.
Wow.
Imagine, receiving a call from what sounds exactly like your child,
Uh-huh.
claiming to be in trouble, needing money urgently.
That's terrifying.
Yeah,
Just the emotional impact alone would make anyone so vulnerable.
absolutely. And the criminals behind these scams are very strategic.
Right.
They gather detailed information about their targets beforehand. They'll identify, family members' relationships, potential vulnerabilities.
Mm-hmm.
They tailor their approach to exploit specific anxieties and fears.
It's like they're crafting a personalized nightmare for each victim.
Yeah.
So how can people protect themselves from these voice cloning scams?
Well, the key is vigilance
Okay.
and critical thinking.
Right.
Don't automatically trust what you hear,
Yeah.
especially if the call seems unusual or suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Verify the caller's identity through independent means,
Right.
even if the voice sounds familiar.
So if someone claiming to be a loved one calls, with an urgent request for money,
Right.
hang up and contact them directly
Exactly.
to a known and trusted channel.
Yes. Don't let panic override your judgment.
Okay.
Scammers thrive on creating a sense of urgency
Right.
and fear.
Yeah.
Take your time, verify the information, and don't hesitate to report any suspicious activity to the authorities.
This reminds me of another tactic that the expert mentioned called call spoofing.
Yeah, call spoofing. That's where criminals manipulate caller ID information
Right.
to make it appear as if they're calling from a legitimate source.
So it could look like a call from a government agency. or
Exactly.
even a close friend.
Yeah, the expert mentioned a case where a criminal actually impersonated a high-ranking government official
Wow,
using call spoofing.
that's crazy.
These tactics are constantly evolving.
Right.
It makes it even more challenging to stay ahead of the curve.
It all ties back to the discussion about KYC regulations
Yeah.
and how criminals are exploiting them.
It's a clever workaround to a system that's designed to prevent financial crimes.
Right, so they target individuals who are in desperate need of cash,
Exactly.
offer them quick money in exchange for using their bank accounts to launder money.
Yeah, they turn them into unwitting accomplices.
It's crazy how they manage to do that.
It is.
So what can people do to protect themselves from falling victim to these KYC exploitation schemes?
Well, awareness is key. We need to educate ourselves and others about these tactics and the risks involved.
Right.
The expert also mentioned a simple but effective way to check if your Aadhaar card has been misused
Okay.
to obtain SIM cards.
Which is a common tactic, right?
Very common. It's used by criminals to create fake identities.
Okay. And what's the process for checking this?
So you can visit the website tafcop.gov.in
Okay.
and log in using your Aadhaar details.
Mm-hmm.
It'll show you a list of all the SIM cards linked to your Aadhaar number.
Wow.
If you see any unfamiliar numbers, you can immediately report them
Okay.
and have them blocked.
So it's a proactive step
It is.
towards protecting your digital identity.
Exactly.
It's fascinating and a bit unsettling
Yeah.
how interconnected our digital identities are with our physical lives
It's true.
and official documentation.
Yeah, it all kind of blends together.
It does. The conversation on the podcast shifted to the ethical implications of technology,
Right.
which is something we haven't really touched upon yet.
Yeah, it's a crucial aspect that's often overlooked.
Right.
They discuss spyware apps, for example,
Okay.
which allow people to track their partners or their children's phone activity.
That's a serious breach of privacy
It is.
with potentially devastating consequences.
Yeah, the expert was very clear that installing such apps without consent is illegal,
Right.
and can even backfire.
How so?
Well, the person who installed the app could face legal repercussions.
Oh, wow.
So instead of resorting to these invasive tactics,
Yeah.
the focus should be on open communication
Right.
and building trust within relationships.
Respecting privacy is a fundamental right.
Absolutely.
Technology should never be used as a tool for manipulation or control
I agree.
in personal relationships.
Yeah.
And this kind of ties back to the dangers of oversharing on social media,
Right.
particularly when it comes to children.
Yeah, we talked about how criminals can use seemingly harmless information
Well-
shared online to target individuals and their families.
Like that Diwali party example.
Yeah, it's exact.
Illustrated how photos and details about our lives can be pieced together
Yeah.
to create a detailed profile for criminals.
It's crucial to be mindful of what we share online.
Right.
Even details about our homes, like the brand of our TV or the type of car we drive,
Really?
can provide criminals with valuable clues.
Wow, I never thought about that.
They can use this information to build trust and credibility,
Uh-huh.
making their scams even more convincing.
So it's not just about protecting our personal information. It's about being aware of how even seemingly insignificant details can be exploited.
Exactly.
We often think of the dark web as this haven for criminal activity.
Yeah.
But the expert mentioned that it's also used by whistleblowers and activists
Right.
to share information anonymously. It's a complex and multifaceted space.
For sure.
And we also talked about the challenges of removing leaked data from the dark web.
Right. Nearly impossible.
Yeah, and how its decentralized nature makes it almost impossible to track down the source of the leak.
Yeah.
Or control its spread.
He connected this to Web 3.0
Right.
and the increasing decentralization of the internet.
So as data control becomes more fragmented,
Yeah.
personal responsibility becomes even more crucial.
It does.
Earlier, we discussed quantum computing
Yeah.
and its potential impact on cryptocurrency security.
Right.
The expert highlighted the threat it poses to cryptographic algorithms, particularly the ones that secure transactions for Bitcoin.
It's a rapidly developing field
It is.
with the potential to disrupt many aspects of our digital world.
Yeah, we need to stay informed about these advancements and their implications for sure.
Absolutely.
You know, it's fascinating how these conversations about cybercrime keep coming back to the human element.
Yeah.
It's like we need a whole new set of digital street smarts to navigate this world.
Absolutely. And those street smarts start with awareness, right?
Right.
Awareness of the tactics the criminals use, the psychological vulnerabilities they exploit, the potential consequences of falling victim to these scams.
Yep.
You pair that awareness with a healthy dose of skepticism, and you're well on your way to protecting yourself.
Yeah, you're right. Don't be afraid to question, to verify information, and most importantly, trust your gut.
Yeah.
If something feels off, it probably is.
Well,
One thing that really struck me was the expert's perspective on the evolution of the internet. He talked about how the internet is becoming increasingly decentralized,
right.
moving away from the control of these big tech giants like Facebook and Google.
It's a paradigm shift. He connected this to the concept of Web 3.0,
Right.
which promises a more democratic and user-centric online experience.
Yeah.
But this decentralization also brings new challenges, especially when it comes to data control and security.
Right. So as data becomes more dispersed, harder to track, personal responsibility becomes even more crucial.
Absolutely.
We need to be extra vigilant about protecting our digital identities and mindful of the information we share online.
Precisely. It's like we're all becoming digital pioneers navigating this uncharted territory.
It's mind-blowing how intertwined our digital lives are becoming with our physical lives.
Yeah.
The lines are blurring and the stakes are getting higher.
Yeah, it's true.
And as technology keeps advancing at this incredible pace, it's more important than ever to stay informed and participate in these conversations.
Exactly. We need to understand the implications of these advancements and make sure technology is being used ethically and responsibly.
Right.
We can't just be passive consumers. We need to be active, informed citizens of the digital world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into cybercrime in India,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the most important takeaway is that knowledge is power.
Right.
We have a responsibility to educate ourselves and others about the risks, the red flags to watch out for, and the steps we can take to stay safe.
This has definitely been a call to action for me. I'm feeling more motivated than ever to be vigilant, to think critically, and be proactive about protecting my digital life.
That's the spirit. And remember, cybercrime isn't just a technological problem. It's a human problem that demands human solutions.
We need to come together as a community, share information, support each other, and hold those in power accountable for creating a safer digital environment.
Well said. Together we can create a digital world that is secure, equitable, and empowering for everyone.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.